NTV, Central and Western Nebraska's most watched news. This is NTV First at 5.
Reaction to threats at a Central Nebraska school. Tonight at 5, it's determined it's all a hoax.
Women in agriculture on the farm and getting involved. We'll take a closer look.
It's still a winter storm, not as bad as once thought. The snowfall amounts downgraded and a beautiful Sunday ahead. All the details in your First Alert weather tonight on First at 5. Colleen.
Thank you, Kent, and good evening. We thank you for joining us tonight for First at 5. Threats of school violence send shockwaves across the country. Now, Central Nebraska's largest high school is reacting after police say threats at Grand Island Senior High are a hoax.
NTV's Rashida Kaba joins us now with more on this story.
Rashida Kaba live from Grand Island. Thank you, Rashida. Meanwhile, law enforcement has been investigating threats across the state since the Florida shooting. So far, one in Plattsmouth, one in Lincoln, have been found credible. The latest, a 16-year-old Lincoln Northeast boy taken into custody for making terroristic threats.
As the national conversation turns to keeping kids safe at school, the National Rifle Association has been getting a lot of criticism. Dallas leaders even asking them to move their upcoming convention from that city. But Governor Pete Ricketts doing the opposite, inviting the NRA to hold its annual meeting here in Nebraska. He posted on Twitter and Facebook this morning saying, quote, "Nebraskans love our constitutional rights. The state's Democratic Party calls the post reckless."
In Grand Island, a man who police say was driving drunk with 7 children in an SUV pleading not guilty.
According to court documents, James Anderson pleaded not guilty to child abuse, driving under the influence, driving during revocation of his license, and other related charges. Prosecutors say back in September, a Hall County deputy stopped the 35-year-old while speeding near Wood River. They say he failed 2 sobriety tests. He's due back in court April the 11th.
A woman convicted of smuggling a cell phone to a prisoner while she was working at the Nebraska State Penitentiary is sentenced. A judge has sentenced Selena Kelly to a year in prison. The 22-year-old pled no contest to unlawful acts by a corrections employee. Officials say she gave the inmate a cell phone sometime in December of 2016. She was fired on December 23rd of that year.
Several Kearney groups say they're worried about the impact cuts at the University of Nebraska system could have on Central Nebraska. The Economic Development Council of Buffalo County, the Kearney Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Kearney Visitors Bureau released a statement saying the proposals are already causing parents, students, and teachers to rethink choosing the university. According to the groups, UNK contributes $115 million to the Kearney area economy, and the cuts could hurt local businesses as well as cause brain drain.
Women across Nebraska met in Kearney today to discuss new financial strategies on the farm. It's a conference that also focused on educating and uplifting women producers involved in the ag industry.
NTV's Sydney Edwards attended this Women in Ag conference in Kearney and heard from a few of these producers. Sid, thanks so much. As athletes from across the world are competing for the gold in South Korea, a new report from the Nebraska Farm Bureau says Nebraska's beef and pork industries are the gold medal winners of the U.S.-Korea trade agreement. According to the Farm Bureau, Nebraska ag exports increased 52% in the 3 years after implementing the agreement. In 2016, Nebraska exported $221 million to South Korea, $39 million worth of pork.
While the state increases its relationship with South Korea, the White House today announced sanctions would stop money and resources from flowing into North Korea, with a focus on shipping vessels at sea.
Christine Frizzell spent the day at their Conservative Political Action Conference, where President Trump made the announcement today.
Nebraska Senator Deb Fischer responding to today's sanctions.
Releasing a statement saying, in part, quote, "For too long, Pyongyang has used illicit means to continue supporting its nuclear weapons program and other malign activities. The administration's latest package of sanctions offers an important new tool to crack down on North Korea's financing of their cruel regime, end quote.
North Korea is the topic of today's question of the day. We want to know what you think. What grade would you give the Trump administration in dealing with the conflict with North Korea?
You can answer our question of the day on our website, that of course, Nebraska.tv. Well, the weather's coming up, turned into a pretty nice Friday out there. Kent's weekend forecast when we come back, and later, it's a real risk, kids and choking hazards, what parents really need to know.
Welcome to Washington Dulles International Airport.
And that voice, have you ever wondered who is that? Always urging safety, heard in a lot of airports. That story is coming up as well.
NTV, where your news comes first. With Seth Denny, Colleen Williams, and Kent Boughton Weather. This is NTV First at 5.